is on the Republican ticket for Township Council. Promises to be a really interesting discussion and a real necessary one because these folks want to lead the township for the next 4 years, and we need to know what they're about, just as we will find out what the incumbents are about at a future news hour. For those of you who don't know, I'm Bill Bowman. I am the co-publisher and editor of the Franken of the Franken. I don't know why I have problems pronouncing that word. Franken reporter and advocate, and with me is
not Bill Bowman, PJ Parker from the Franklin Reporter and Advocate, and I'm also the co-publisher, and I dabble on news, on advertising, on the directing of that sometimes.
The Franklin Reporter and Advocate.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm just having a hard time neurologically today. Anyway, so PJ, this is going to be a great show because we have the 5 candidates who are gracious enough to come on our can you call them airwaves? I don't know if they're airwaves, but basically they're gracious enough
as well as view waves,
as well as internet waves, I guess. I don't know. And spend some time with us and spend some time with Franklin residents to really give an idea of who they are and why they want you to vote for them. And the way we're going to do this is not a mass, an en masse kind of thing. We're going to bring the folks out one by one, alphabetically, and we're just going to have them tell them a little bit about themselves, and then we're going to ask them a few questions, all geared to answer that underlying question, which is, why should you cast your vote for these folks? So Franklin, if you enjoy these kinds of programs, and I know you do because that's why you're watching, please support us. Please support the Franklin Reporter. I can't pronounce that word. The Franklin Reporter. Different ways. Subscribing would be a great idea. $37 a year. That's 10 cents a day, just about. If you have a business in town, please consider advertising with us. You would be contacting PJ Parker for that. But generally, subscriptions and advertising and supporting our advertisers. That's very important. They need to know that you guys are appreciative of the fact that they're supporting Franklin Township's only true independent source of news. We give, and I can say this unabashedly, we give the most thorough report of what's going on in Franklin Township of any news source that purports to cover the town. Do we get it all? No, we don't. And I'll admit that, and that's a failure on my part, but we get as much as we can. And we get much more than any of the other news sources in town. Would you agree with that, PJ Parker?
I would just add to that in addition to the support that you would provide your local independently owned news source in Franklin Township with so many different modalities to do so, not just our Franklin Reporter and Advocate website, but we have our morning report. You get the day's top stories. We have a monthly newspaper. We are always in the community doing live streams for charitable organizations, for events that are important to you, Franklin Township. And you benefit from the interest that generates in your community. People want to know what's going on in Franklin Township. And you as a potential advertiser can benefit from the interest that people have in your local community news because we're giving that to you. So
absolutely.
On the expansive side of that note, tonight is one of the examples of one of the things that we can offer our community, and that is our Franklin Reporter and Advocate News Hour. And as Bill said, this is a very, very important night. The GOP candidates for our town council, and our town council is a very instrumental organization within our municipal government. So much is decided on this council. It takes beyond dedication, it takes a tremendous amount of time. It takes a tremendous amount of self-educating as to how municipal governing works, how things get done in this community. There's a genuine spirit of the community at large in your hands. And this is not a position to be taken lightly. So we do not take any of the candidacies here lightly. Each one of these people has very solid reasons for wanting to improve our community. And quite honestly, I can't wait to hear from every one of them as to how
Exactly.
they are going to benefit Franklin Township, why you should support their vote, what their visions are, and what they see as some of the flaws within the community that they perhaps can bring a different perspective to.
Right.
So I think without further ado,
Well, wait a minute. Before we do that, I just want to tell folks,
wait,
if you
we
have,
need more further ado.
yes, we do. Ha. I want to tell folks, if you have a question you'd like us to answer, or not answer, like us to ask the candidate,
Mm-hmm.
or consider asking the candidate, because not every question is going to get asked. Put it in the comments. PJ, you have a person who's concerned about your welfare. PJ Parker, I thought she'd be tired today after that long walk this afternoon down Route 27 with that interview she did today. How you feeling?
Actually, it turned out to be a little longer than we anticipated. But you know what? When we get to the truth and the heart of a matter, it is one of the more energizing things that one can do. When you give light to a subject that needs to be lit.
Exactly.
And you inform a community of something that maybe they're not aware of on an immediate basis. In and of itself, that you forget that your feet are moving faster than the rest of you may be moving at the moment. It was enlightening. And
All right.
if you want to hear more, please go to our Franklin Facebook page after you have finished watching our NewsHour Now, and see what was going on, what the importance and significance of that march today was all about.
All right. Without further ado, let's bring on our
Thank you,
first.
Kevin, for your concern.
Let's bring on our first candidate, who is Andrew Dars.
How you doing? And PJ,
Mr. Dars, welcome.
I'm sorry. PJ, you could have said it. You could have even said it better. That was just very descriptive of how important the town council position actually is to represent the ward that you are with. So to find out more about me, then first I want to say thank you very much for doing this, to giving me a chance to, tell us about ourselves, why they want to vote for us, what we could do for them. And it is extremely important.
So before we get started with that, why don't you just give us a little thumbnail and tell us who Andrew Dars is?
Excellent. Andrew Dars has lived here. That's me. I've lived in town here for about 30 years. I've always been very involved in this town in regards to volunteering, whether it be once on the housing authority or the library board as a trustee. I've always been very involved. I think it's really, everyone should actually try to do that if they could, be involved in some way or another. Andrew Dars is, is a proud parent of 2 children, a wife, who have went to school in Franklin from kindergarten up to high school. So there's a strong will. They've done very well. The way to describe me, the best way, is that I am always accessible and always accountable. I've had a business for 30 some odd years. That is the way I treat all my clients. You need to be always accessible and always accountable. In a sense, I'm on a job interview right now. I'm trying to get hired by you for this position. The other thing I think that is important is for me as the advocate. My background, degree in political science, I have a business here in town. And again, one of the things I try to really put forth is, the ability that, like, instance, I work for you. If you were to vote for me, this is what I want to do. Now, the important things is, one, how do we control the costs here in town? We want to make sure that, we are paying, reasonable costs so that we don't need to come back with these consistent tax increases. It's more or less routine is what I see. And people that I talk to, everyone's got to pay their share to some degree, but it seems that seems to be the only answer is to raise taxes. Obviously from where I've been all these years. Now, if we are making money as a town, why should we be raising taxes? Speaking to people, I understand that we're very profitable in all the construction and building that's going on. If that is really profitable, then we shouldn't be expecting any tax increases. One of the things I'm very concerned about is the infrastructure of our town. Safety is a big deal for me. It really is. The very primary thing is, as a counselor, I want to make sure that everyone's safe. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we are not, the roads are up to date, that we're not actually drowning as a town. Very simply, is if my neighbor should build a pool in their backyard and they don't account for the drainage, well, I'm going to get the flood. It is, if we keep paving over all the land that we have, it's just going to get worse. And speaking with people that I know that have, intelligence in this matter, said this is only the start. If we don't, cut back and on the construction, and here's the point. The town council, we can't tell someone that they can't sell their property and build on it. It's not we're really not allowed to do that, right? I don't think you'd want us to do that. But the fact is that as an advocate for the town, we got to make sure that we're doing things smartly. Okay, if we're building, say, and then we're giving tax breaks to the builder, I mean, are we really making any money? If we're putting over so much land being paved over, okay, are we actually gonna, protect the infrastructure of the town? I don't think that's actually happening. So one of the things I also want to do is bring in proper revenue, and now we can do that so easily. We can make agreements and partnerships with, say, Rutgers University and all the business associations that I've been involved with. And we can make this like the hub for people to come to, bring in new business, entrepreneurs, startups, innovators. We have the buildings. We could probably fill them with it. This would be terrific because the more business we bring in, the more people come in. The more people that come in, well, the more things they're going to buy and produce revenue for the small business. It's just sad to walk by all the time and seeing these empty buildings, if you would, empty storefronts. That's the thing. The last thing is, one of the things, there's so many more I'd like to do, basically. But one of the things is being able to communicate with our people, communicate with the town. I know that, people be careful with, current coronavirus and things of that nature. But I've talked to so many people that want to have the council meetings in person. You can do both. You don't have to have one or the other. You can get prepared for it. I know that, I randomly was calling up different towns today, and it was like the only one that still will be only Zoom. Okay. And what happens is that you are eliminating the access for such a good portion of people. When I served on the library board, and I was there, you would see the people that come that do not have access. They don't have access to a computer. Maybe they're not comfortable using Zoom. Those people are cut out. They're denied their privilege and their benefit. It's the right that they have to be able to address their council at any point. Again, I'm the one that's always going to be available, always accessible. You call me, I'm going to call you back. Okay? You come to me with a problem. You may not like the answer I give you, but you're going to get one, and you're going to get one relatively soon. I'm a very easily person. I can work with many others. People concerned, if you get on the board, how are you going to work? You're outnumbered. That's fine. The thing is, voices need to be heard. Conversations can be had. And then that's the way to properly do things. I'm Andrew Dars. I'm always accessible, always accountable. I hope you vote for me because I will work very hard to make sure I do the best job for you and live to the things I'm talking about. Okay.
Have you talked about property taxes going up? Have your property taxes been going up the past few years? I mean, the municipal portion, right? We're not talking about the whole ball of wax with county and everything else. We're talking about the municipal portion.
Right. Well, as far as I see, my wife pays the bills, but the taxes have gone up because she doesn't trust me with that. And everything's gone up in price to some degree. And it all results back to who's the cost of something. If the town's being charged more for a service or a benefit that they have to acquire, well, they're going to pass it on through taxes. The point is, every dollar may not be a lot to you, but it's a lot to me or somebody else. Could be. The fact is also is that they talk about the profits and the money that we're making from all this construction, but are we really? If we have to then pay to support the infrastructure that is probably not up to date, considering traffic and roads and things of that nature, well, then we got to pay for that. Even if the builder pays up front for some portion, they're not going to pay forever. So, and I talk about safety. This is a really big deal. If we're having these things, how many accidents are we going to have? Or a building blows up or whatever from the flooding. And I'm not saying that, anyone's responsible. I'm just saying that we need to prepare for these things. We have more people coming in. We need to make sure the roads are good. We have so many values, especially in Ward 3. We have Hutchinson Forest, the canals, all the parks. And I've spoken to so many farmers. I mean, this is a very big farm community. Sometimes I overlook that living, in different areas. But they're very, very concerned. I mean, their livelihoods are spent, are based on this. And if the water level are too high, they're going to lose their crops and such. if we can't control the pestifly, the lanternflies and the ash worm, we're going to lose a lot more revenue that way as well. So these things, we can't just wait for it to happen. I'm not criticizing anyone in specific. I'm just saying that, are we really doing the best job we can? I don't believe we are. And it really comes, and the reason I know that is if we look at the minutes of all the meetings, we watch them. Generally, everyone votes the same way. There's very little discussion, and that's because we have one party. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm just saying that maybe it's time to do a little more transparency, so we can, put a little argument up front. Is this the best way of doing it? If everyone votes the same way, it's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you made a good point before about you're talking about development, and pointing out that the council really doesn't have much to say about what gets built, because people do have the right, as has been pointed out many times before, people have the right to sell their property. People have the right to build on property that they own, so long as it conforms to zoning and the master plan. So, and of course, the big issue right now is, one of the big issues right now in terms of development is the proposed temples on South Middlebush Road.
Yes.
We're going to be coming out with an opinion about that before the board meets to probably take the final vote on it.
Right.
Are they going to heed us? Who knows? But we're gonna have our say. So I guess the only thing, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but really the only thing they can do as a council member really is talk about is having to adjust the master plan, right?
Well, there are actually two answers to this question, and if I got it right, again, you wouldn't want the council to have this magic wand that says you can't do this or you could do that. I mean, there'd be too much power to give to any group of people. But the fact is, let's take the example a few years back. We had the same issue over here on Grouser. Grouser Road is a very small road. It goes over from Van Cleef up into the canals. And they were going to build a structure there with a parking lot that would accommodate 500 cars. I mean, everyone was up in arms. We went to the meetings in person. We raised our opinions. But ultimately, that person had the right to sell their property. But ultimately, what we did here is that we worked as smart. Brian Levine, the mayor at the time, he got together conversation, and they, made some other types of arrangement that benefited all. They were also going to do that previously, way back. I think it was some factory they were going to put right on Cedar Grove. And again, it just wouldn't make sense. You can do things. You can look at Green Acres. You can possibly look at the zoning that was done previously. Is it up to date now, or should it be reevaluated? You can simply have conversation, maybe provide, in that case, I think they did like a swap of land, where why we can do this for that. I'm not saying that, it's going to happen, but if you don't do those things and you just simply say, well, it's out of my hands, or it's a county issue, or there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, we're paying the council position is a paid position. If you get that kind of answer from somebody you're working for, or someone's working for you, it's not going to be satisfying. There are some examples.
Gotcha. Before I go to PJ, we do have a question for you from a reader. I'm going to destroy your name. I believe it's Chachi Real, who wants to know what you're going to do about gun violence in our town.
It's an incredible question. Let's look at it this way. As far as the gun violence, I mean, we have in New Jersey, I would say probably one of the toughest laws of gun control in the country. Okay. And this is actually a relevant question to a council, because sometimes I've been asked, what are we going to do with the trade in China and stuff like that? But I believe, right. We have a very, very well-trained police force as well. Okay. What to do about it is let the police do their job. As a councilman, we're there to support the police, but we're not there to dictate terms. Okay. You wouldn't want anyone to have that much ability to control the police force. We're there to provide support, whatever they need, but we're also there to, again, as an advocate for the people. And there goes communications from the people plus to sit down with the chief and the rest of them and say, where do we stand in relation to the rest of the state? Where do we stand? What are the other towns or the other states doing to control this problem? And the best, you can always look in the past to get your answers. I mean, it dictates the future, right? This town's been around for a very, very long time. And I bet no one's really ever looked at the thoughts that other councilmen from back had on different opinions of things. I mean, gun issues has been a problem for a long time. The best way that I know to resolve it is to sit down, have conversations, see what the other towns are doing, what works, what doesn't work, and see if we can implement it here.
Gotcha. PJ, do you have anything?
Do I dare broach the question? Hello.
Hey,
Nice
PJ,
to
how
have
are
you
you?
on board. Thank you, Andrew. There's so much controversy right now with COVID in the schools.
I'm sorry?
With COVID
Yes,
and the potential for spread, especially amongst the
sure.
younger children. What is your feeling about vaccinations for children from ages 5 to 11?
Well, PJ, the way I look at it is this has been with us now, I think about 15, 18 months, almost going on 2 years. We have a lot of data at this point that we didn't have previously. Okay. I believe this may sound odd, but when COVID came to this planet to some degree, it didn't come here with the idea of being a politician. All right. This is a disease and it requires proper science to look at it and say, this is what we need to do. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. In my position where I'm at, you got to listen to what other people are telling you, but also you got to, until we really know what works, doesn't work. I have to follow the mandates that are put out by the federal government and the state. Myself, I've been vaccinated. I am not telling somebody that they have to be vaccinated. I don't understand why they wouldn't, to be honest with you. I think it'd be kind of silly not to, but we have the data. It shows that vaccination works. Can you take someone's job away from it? No, I don't think you should. If they are not vaccinated, well, then we'll say then you have to wear a mask. You got to do that every day. Or I'm sorry, to answer your question with the children, looking at the science of that, generally it takes about 3 years or so to really determine if the vaccination does and what the effects will be. I do not think it's a good idea to mandate vaccination for children that small. We really don't know what the full effects of the vaccination will be. Okay, children are much more resilient than most people think they give credit for. Until the time in which we know specifically in the federal government and the states that this is what you have to do based on the CDC and what they come up with, I would say that I am not requiring children to be vaccinated. I'm not requiring anyone to have to be vaccinated. I don't think it's a good idea to not be vaccinated, but I would not require it at this point.
Okay. Good. And again, you're running in Ward 3, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right.
I have one more question.
Yes,
I'm
please.
going to ask every candidate this. What is the best quality of Andrew Dars?
I'm responsible. I mean, it really is. Look, what I tell people to do is very simple. Hey, you need to really invest the time to determine who is this guy running for. Go on the internet, check him out. I have nothing to put back. I don't believe in a candidate page. I tell people just go right to my regular Facebook page. That's the one I update. I tell people call up the county, do a background check on me. You're going to give these people a lot of money in taxes. Are they responsible with it? Do a background check if you want, whatever's legal. But you should, what does this person have? Who are they? They're going to be handling, I'm not just talking about the money they make. They're handling your taxes, your neighbor's taxes, everyone else's, right? You need to invest the time. Who am I? I am a responsible person that is always accountable, always accessible, and I'm always accountable. And I will be your advocate. I guess to answer your question in a very shorter way would be that if you vote for me, I'm going to make sure I can take care of you. I'm going to listen to you, and I'm always available. If PJ calls or anyone calls, I will call them back. I may not be able to give them the answer they want, or I may not know the answer, but I'm just not going to pass it on and just not return their calls and not help them. It's not what I do.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very
Andrew.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming up.
No, I appreciate you giving us the forum to do this. I really do. Thank you.
Sure.
November 2nd,
Absolutely.
Andrew Dars, please vote for me.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Okay. Next up is Mr. Kanduri.
Yes, sir.
How are
can
you?
You hear me?
We can
I'm
hear
good,
you
thank
fine.
you.
Thank you. And we can see you.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
I'd like
coming
to
on.
thank- yes,
So,
I'd like to
as we
thank
did
you.
with Andrew, why don't you give us a little bit of who Laxman Kanduri is?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to thank you for organizing this event for the benefit of everyone that lives in this town. And I happen to live in Ward 1, And I've been living here for over, I would say, 18 to 19 years. I originally, we used to live in Brooklyn. We moved from Brooklyn, but me and my wife, we both work in Brooklyn. And I've been teaching the inner city urban youth for the last 35 years with the City University of New York. And also I've been a consultant to the local food industry for all these 30, 35 or 40 years. I helped so many small to medium companies to troubleshoot their issues with the government, with the compliance, with the product development, etc. And that is my professional background. Personal background is I have two children who went to the Franklin Public Schools, and my older one, my daughter, is finished her med school at Robert Wood in New Brunswick. Now she also finished her residency in Harvard, and she's doing her fellowship in cardiology at Cornell right now. She's in her second year fellowship. She went through the first batch of the program that was set up in the county, at the county level, called the Somerset County Health Science Academy in Bridgewater. She was the first student from the first batch.
Wow.
She was bused from my home to Bridgewater every day for more than an hour. And she also, they had this program, I think it was Jack Chitterley was responsible for, he was one of the main people who got the funds to start the program. And it's still up and running, it's doing well.
Very interesting.
And my wife, she's also in the medical field. She used to be an obstetrician gynecologist, but she went into infection control. She was not able to, keep up with the residency with children being very small. She gave up that, and she works as an infection control manager at one of the Brooklyn hospitals.
Wow.
So that is my personal background. And
Gosh.
as far as my public community service goes, I've been a president and board member for more than a decade, 10 to 12 years for my homeowners association. We have close to 200 homes in our development, and my neighboring development are the 100 homes. And what we established as the homeowner association fee still holds good. We did not raise a penny. In fact, we reduced a little bit in the last 18 to 20 years. And it's still being maintained, even though I'm not actively involved in that with my time constraints. But coming to the goals, my goals for running for this position is, I did try once in 2009 because I was asked to, and of course I didn't win the job, but I was able to bring a satellite. I was able to bring the concern that we don't have a library at this end of the town. And if you have to go to the library, it's at all the way at the other end.
Right.
In fact, most of the other facilities are located far away from where we are located. So I was able to get that satellite library on 227 during that time. And similarly, there are a few issues that are related to Ward 1 that I like to discuss. But before that, the main township-wide concerns are, first thing is, I'd like to eliminate or try to work towards eliminating dual public employment. Number two, I'm sure everybody knows what I'm referring to here, dual public employment. The same person, for example, one person is an assemblyman, he draws salary as an assemblyman, he also has a 65-hour job as the interim head of sewerage authority. I don't see how he can devote 65 hours a week towards a second job while holding a primary job. You see, both are paid positions. So things like that should be eliminated, in my opinion. Okay, and I'm sure everybody who lives in this township would agree to that. And I'd like to also try to fight for eliminating dual office holding. There's no need. There's plenty of people with plenty of brain power and ability to spend their time, and everybody should get an opportunity to serve. And the third thing is, I'd like to make sure that public pensions for corruption convictions must be required. Okay, to require forfeiture of public pensions for corrupted people, for corruption convictions, and strict disclosure of conflicts of interest. I'm not saying that it's not being done now, but it has to be enforced properly. And the transparency and control in government spending. And I'd like to fight for accountability and rising tax burden. Okay, and my previous councilman candidate was talking about the taxes and the rise in taxes. There need not be a tax rise every year. I have seen a consistent increase in my taxes in the last 18 years. It almost doubled my property taxes. Okay, and you raised the point that, are you talking about municipal taxes or school taxes?
Mm-hmm.
It should be one and the same. It's all combined, right? When the taxes go up, taxes get distributed in both parts, both buckets, right? So it has to have proper control.
But as a councilman, you only have control over the municipal portion of the tax, of the property tax. You don't have control over the school tax.
I understand, but there must be a mechanism. There must be oversight. I don't know if it is there now, but there should be oversight, because the funds are going out of the taxes collected by the township into the school board of education, right? So that's what I mean. And if you ask me what is why I am contesting, my main reason for running for the election is this country has provided me a lot. I came here with a negative balance. I took a loan to take the air flight, and fortunately, this country gave me everything. I had the research assistantship to go to grad school, and the minute I finished the school, I had the job offer. So this country gave me a lot, and I want to give back. That's the sole reason I'm doing this, nothing else. Okay. Right? And
go ahead.
Sorry. And I just want to briefly mention the local issues related to Ward 1.
Okay.
The number one is, I want to start from my vicinity. In my development, we have a park which is considered private, but it's also public in a sense, because it's open to the Griggstown Native Grassland Trail 10-mile run greenway. It runs through it, right? So it's not in our control, because everybody says it's a public park, right? But we don't have any facilities. And I just read online that during the second budget hearing on March 21st, they're close to $1 million were allocated to all the different parks in the township, right? And which is for good reason. They're trying to repair and fix things. Also, they're trying to comply with the amendments with Disabilities Act in all these parks. That's all commendable. It's good to do those things. But what about our park? We have nothing in there. And that's my first goal request would be to set up some lighting in the park, solar lighting, because there's a lot of vandalizing going on these days. We don't know who comes in there because it's scattered in a corner of the development, and we don't have any control. It's completely dark, and there's all kinds of things go on there in the nights, and it's dangerous. The police was kind enough to send some patrols once in a while, but it's not enough. So lighting would greatly help. The second thing I constantly hear from our development residents are the traffic speed within the development. A road humps would certainly help. So these are minimum things at major intersections where school buses stop. There should be some sort of humps to slow down, for the traffic to slow down. That is my second concern that I would like to bring it to the council. And the third, similarly, Route 27 is really got heavy traffic and too much traffic, probably due to over construction, and that has to be addressed somehow, either by widening the road or giving less permits for new constructions on the 27 corridor. It starts all the way from Kingston and till I would say till Finnegan's Lane, and even past that. Peak hours are terrible to drive, especially when there are school buses in front of you. So these are the things that I would like to present, and if you have any questions, please
Sure.
feel free to.
I wanted to circle back to something you said earlier about the library, getting the Franklin Park Satellite Library established. As you know, I'm sure you know, the library board is planning on closing that little office in the shopping center and building a freestanding library not too far from it. How do you feel about that?
That'll be great. I appreciate the concerns that the library board has finally, making the right move of building a permanent library. Yes.
PJ?
I'm a little distracted. I'm sorry. I guess a generalized question. What is the single most important feature of Franklin Township right now that you would like to see changed by your election to the council?
Accountability, one word. Everybody who's supposed to do what they're doing, if they're doing, everything will be dandy, fine and dandy. So that's my primary goal, accountability.
Do you think the current council is not
currently as a flaw that exists currently?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Do you see that is lax right now? And no pun intended, sorry.
Yeah, I don't see very transparent things that go on, and they're not very transparent.
And how would you change
in my
that?
opinion, yeah.
How would you
Transparency,
change that?
accountability, yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't think we have any questions from the audience. You have anything else for him, PJ?
I'm going to ask every candidate, what is the best part of Laxman Kanduri?
I know I'm honest and I'm responsible. If I'm given a job, I'll try to do my best.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Kanduri, anything else you'd like to tell potential voters out there as to why they should vote for you?
Like I said, because I have my track record in my development, and I have been an honest citizen as far as I can tell. You can my thing is open book. You can look online and figure out who I am. And
All right.
and if you give me your vote, I will do my best. Okay,
that's Laxman Kanduri. You're running in Ward 1?
Yes.
Okay, on the Republican ticket. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and thank you for answering our questions.
Thank you again for organizing this
Thank
event.
you.
Take care. All right, next up, Mr. Cashinski.
Good evening, Franklin Township.
There you go. Or Cash, as he's known.
Yes, sir. How's everyone doing this evening?
We're doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Good to see you, Bill. You too, PJ. You both look wonderful.
Too.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. Let me start off by thanking you for hosting this evening. What a true asset to the community to have the availability to really reach both sides of the aisle and make a true conscious decision. I can tell you how much it means to our community and moreover to all of us here in Franklin.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. So we're going to start with you the same way we've started with everybody else. Just tell us a little bit about who Rob Cashinski is.
Well, Rob Cashinski is, I want to say, your typical Franklinite. I've been a nurse for well over 15 years now. I've worked in travel nursing. I've worked in psychology, oncology, emergency medicine, kind of all gamuts. The more experience, the better. Before that, during high school and a little bit after, I was a volunteer fireman. I've been a correctional officer. I've worked in a boys' home and out in Northeast Pennsylvania for disadvantaged youth, where there was a constant program day and night, 7 days a week, which was a wonderful experience. And I'm just looking to come out here, do my best in the town council race, and hopefully make a great impact for my community that will be standing here long after I am. And I'd like to leave it a far better place than I found it when I came.
Okay. All right. So talk about some of the issues you think are facing the township and how you would go about addressing them.
To be honest, there are many, many issues facing our town. Some of the top three I'd have to say in my list of what's gone wrong across the camp would have to be transparency in our government. We have 9 members on our township council now that are all Democrats. I find that abhorrent. That isn't how American government works. It's not how a republic was built. It's not how it's meant to succeed for all of us, not just a Republican governing, not just a Democrat governing, but a community governing itself. There's an old adage, a proverb, if you will, from the Middle East that says in Jerusalem, if there is a body of 13 men and the first 12 men agree to an idea wholeheartedly, and the 13th man also agrees with what's being presented, it is still the duty of the 13th man to say no, simply so it can be discussed from a standpoint of a positive versus a negative, weighing pros and cons. And I feel like our town council doesn't do that. It's one person suggesting an idea, whether it be good or bad for our community. Take, for instance, that grandparents' park that I had to initiate and gather, oh my goodness, almost 1,000 signatures, if not just slightly over, if I remember correctly, of concerned residents who thought that was a horrible idea. But when it was initially presented by one person, the next person in town council just patted them on the back and said, that sounds like a great idea. And then they fell like dominoes, the next person, to the next person, to the next person. So that's not representation. That's cronyism. And that's just unacceptable in any town, be it our small town, be it a larger town that we are becoming in Franklin. Whatever you feel we are, that's just simply disgusting. That's unacceptable. We deserve better. And that's one of my slogans. My little hashtag, we deserve better, falls on the knees and the laps of every single council member. We deserve better than what they're giving us right now.
Okay. What are some of the other issues you're looking at?
Another issue that I find very disturbing is the overdevelopment. As it was discussed before with, I believe, the previous 2 candidates, overdevelopment affects our community because the reason most of us have moved to Franklin, or most of us stay in Franklin, and most of us, if not all of us, enjoy Franklin, is because we have a nice rural, small town feel, but we enjoy the conveniences of a larger town and those amenities. If we continue to push more factories, more places of worship, more housing, it's just going to be detrimental to not only all of us that already live here, but the prospective new Franklinites that will be moving into these places and worshiping in these places. Franklin is not supposed to be a religious destination town. Now it's too late. We're probably going to get these 2 places of worship. How many residents from Franklin are actually going to be attending these places of worship? And if I had to venture a guess, and now mind you, it is strictly a guess, I'd imagine not many. Because if you look at the other places of worship that we have, which are many, most of their parishioners aren't really from Franklin Township. Those people aren't paying taxes. They have no vested interest in our schools. Schools that used to be blue ribbon schools and no longer are, might I add. Schools, roads, infrastructure, they have no concern for them. So the overdevelopment affects negatively only the people that are here for the full run, the people that truly are invested and absolutely love Franklin like I do, PJ does, you do, and many, many others watching this right now. We all love Franklin. So overdevelopment like it is an absolute detriment. You can look at the Amazon trucks that are parked, and I have pictures on my Facebook page. I'm at Rob Cash Cashinski for Council. They're just parked, the Amazon trucks, the back of the 18-wheelers, the reefer trucks, just parked there, standing literally right in front of a no parking sign. And a resident who was concerned had texted me, sent me many, many photos. I have many photos that I'm more than willing to share with your publication if they'd like them, of them parked just detached from the cab right in front of no parking signs. There's no parking ordinances. The police can only write so many tickets. They're not going to tow the reefer trucks. Amazon, I'm sure we all expected at the time of them coming into our community, expected them to be a good neighbor, like all of us expect to have when someone new moves into the area. Amazon hasn't been a very good neighbor at all, and I feel like it's the job of town council to hold them accountable at this point, because I'm sure we'd all like to maintain Amazon as a neighbor because they do offer jobs. They offer solid community services. They offer a lot that our community could definitely be a positive impact and part of. But if they're not going to be a positive neighbor, we need to question what their efficacy in representing our community's needs are. If you're going to be a horrible neighbor, you really don't stand much of a chance of being a good neighbor in the future. So we need to curtail that behavior now. I hold the council accepted that responsibility when they all took that oath of office to maintain some form of quality of life for all of us. And by simply closing their eyelashes and batting their eyelashes at each other and high-fiving on their way out of the council chambers makes no difference or impact in the lives of any Franklinite, and it helps none of us. They're ignoring problems that are around the area constantly. Even if you look at Hurricane Ida, they had zero plan for any fallout. How is that possible? We have to be ready for these storms. We live in New Jersey. This isn't the first storm we've had. We should have a plan of action ready before something terrible happens, because terrible things happen. We need to be realists. We trust these people to protect our best interests, to protect our quality of life, to protect our community, to protect our homes. They failed miserably, and they consistently do so. Yet they tout that they're champions of environmental services and ideologies. They are champions of combating overdevelopment. Where? Where does this exist? Where those 30 townhouses are going at the end of Amwell over there. They had the opportunity to purchase that land and they passed on it. Why? Why would you pass on it? The more land our township can own is more land that can't be built on. And we all enjoy green spaces, even if it's just to peruse and walk down the street. I live on Demont Lane. Across the street from my home is green spaces. I've got to be honest, that was part of the appeal in purchasing our home. Also, I couldn't tell you how many people all of a sudden enjoyed walking after dinner quite a bit more when there was COVID restrictions in place. And I would see them walk back and forth and just stare out into the woods as if to lose themselves in a land of beauty and wonder. It was glorious. You're taking that away from our youth. You're taking that away from Franklin's future. And you're taking that away from us now, all by simply not protecting it and refusing to act.
So, as we've asked the other candidates who've talked about overdevelopment and such, what steps would you take as a councilman to help curb overdevelopment in Franklin Township?
I would first of all task the planning board, the planning committee, with being a little more responsible with their decision making. It's all of our jobs to work as a cohesive unit and a team once elected. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Once you're elected, you work for Franklin. You work for Black Franklin, you work for White Franklin, you work for Brown Franklin, you work for Yellow Franklin, you work for Green Franklin, you work for Pink Franklin. You work for every color of the rainbow Franklin. I don't think they're doing that now. I think they're working for each other. They're working to name parks after each other. They're working to develop new JFK plazas for each other. They're working to cover mistakes that have been made in the past. So to combat the overdevelopment, what we have to do to answer your question more fluidly is start holding people responsible. Do your job. As a nurse, if I didn't do my job, unfortunately, someone died. And to me, that was not ever acceptable. Well, as a councilman or council person, I have to do my job. Because if I don't do it correctly, parts we love of Franklin might die. And I can't allow that to happen any longer either.
Okay, great. PJ?
I've heard a lot. Wow. What's the very first thing that you would tackle? What's the number one problem that you're seeing in Franklin Township? You've cited many. What's the number one that you think is what you would need to tackle first?
To be honest, I would have to say inclusion. I feel like a lot of people feel left out. I feel like a lot of folks feel like local government is some faraway land. It's some secret unit. It's some, intricate little secret club that people are involved with. And if you're not part of the club, you can just go away. I don't like that. I think that as a representative of our government or a representative of our community, it's your duty to sift through things that may be confusing and make it a little more digestible for our community. I'll put it like this. It's time we started developing cliff notes for our community regarding our government instead of making it more difficult for people to understand. People are very apt and very excited to get involved with a conversation regarding national politics. As a local politician and as local political involvement, I find it really, really important to make people realize and hopefully lead them to the realization themselves that what affects their daily lives is local government. It's the council members, it's the planning board, it's the board of education, it's the people that silently walk behind you and say nothing. I venture to say there's quite a few people watching this right now that don't even know who their ward representative is. I don't like that idea. So the first thing I would do would be to open myself unabridged and unequivocally to our community. They deserve to know what's going on for them, with them, and about them. We need to open the doors to our government. We need to give tours of our government facilities. Have you ever been on a municipal tour at the municipal building, PJ or Bill?
A tour? No.
Not guided, no.
Sure. And why not? That's not acceptable. You're paying for all of these services.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it really difficult to digest further that a lot of people don't know what services they might be entitled to. Now, I like that lots of pictures were taken about setting up vaccination clinics. I like that lots of pictures were taken going into people's homes, giving them vaccinations. Why can't we just do that because it's the right thing? Why can't we let seniors know we can drop off meals for your home? Why can't we let seniors know and set up programs that, hey, we can mow your lawn? Why don't we have outreach programs for veterans that come back frightened and not knowing because they've now entered a new world? Why don't we have programs that entice our young people after they've graduated high school and prospectively college to return to Franklin, to reinvest in our community? There's nothing to keep people here. There's nothing to keep the youth here. There is nothing to keep our future here. As your next council person, I'm going to make it not only my duty, but my privilege to serve Franklin and open those doors to the municipal building and hopefully offer tours so everyone can feel involved. You're paying for it. Why shouldn't you enjoy it? It's glorious down there. It shouldn't be a secret society. It should be a government for the people, by the people. And it's time to return it to just that.
All right. Paige?
Wow. And of the people.
That's right. Absolutely.
So what is the best quality of Rob Cashinski?
Well, other than my looks, which my wife obviously would beg to disagree, I'd have to say my sense of humor, my compassion, my kindness, my integrity. I don't think it's one specific thing that makes a person wonderful or poor. I think it's a whole culmination of life experience, a culmination of genuineness. It's a whole litany of different qualities combined and mixed together that make things glorious. We all enjoy steak or good vegetable dish, but don't those meals taste better with a little spice added here and a little taste of something added there? I think that's what makes people great too. I think that's what makes me great. There's a lot of life experience, a lot of kindness, a lot of heart, a lot of integrity, a lot of love, a lot of lessons, a lot of learning, and a lot of service to my community, wherever that may be. And I'm very proud to say that's going to be Franklin.
Wow.
All right. Well put. Well put. Great. Well, thank you very much. That's Rob Cashinski running for Township Council in Ward 5. Ward 5 on your bingo
Thank you
card.
for this wonderful opportunity. It was wonderful speaking with everyone. Don't forget to get out on November 2nd, if not before, and don't forget to return your VBM ballots. Regardless of who you vote for, it's important that you vote, and I thank you for doing your duty.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. We really
Yes,
appreciate it.
thank you very much, Rob.
My pleasure. Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful evening.
Great. You too. All right. Next up we have Stella Mitsun. Mrs. Mitsun, hello. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, how are you? I hope you're both doing well and everyone is being healthy and safe these days.
We're trying our best. So, as we have with everyone else, why don't you give us a little bit about who is Stella Mitsun anyway?
So I actually come from a faraway place in New York on Long Island. I actually grew up there, fell in love with somebody that I met at work who is a lifetime Franklinite. He was born and raised here. He tells me stories of when this used to be really rural. and there were lots of farms, and the buildings that we see today were just not here. It sounded like a wonderful place to grow up for him. The town I grew up in was really kind of where we're at right now. It was starting to get a little overpopulated maybe. All the farms were starting to disappear. So now fast forward all these years later, they're all gone. So I think that's one of the reasons probably why I went into environment, health, and safety for my career choice. I'm very fortunate to have a position working for a utility in New York. The position I have is to ensure that while folks are doing their job, they're doing it well, they're doing it safely. The health part really kicked in during the pandemic more than ever to make sure that we're protecting ourselves so that we can protect each other, to follow all of the guidelines that the CDC has offered over these past months to ensure that. And then the environment part, which is really my forte. I worked in an environmental testing laboratory for 11 years before going into the utility. It's the sort of thing that you have to watch every moment to make sure that we safeguard our environment, so it's there for us in the future, there for our children. Make sure that we have clean water to drink. These are things that we kind of take for granted almost, I think, because we are fortunate in this country to have rules and regulations that keep companies sort of in check, which is really, really important. So it's my position in that company to make sure that we really stay within those regulations and guidelines. And they're so important, not only for businesses, but for the people who live in the communities that the businesses are in. And no different than here in Franklin. We want to make sure that we have safe waterways. People like to fish out of our rivers, and they like to take their boats out there and enjoy those beautiful areas out there that we have. We're so fortunate enough to live close to. And I've been doing that for, 22 years now. So I'm married to a fellow who was a fireman in the community. And along with him, I did a lot of volunteering, a lot of Santa helpers days and firemen's fairs and selling funnel cakes and stuff. And that's always fun to do things in the community and make you feel part of something bigger than yourself.
Great. What was that town on Long Island?
It's Center Reach, very near Stony Brook University, if anybody knows that.
I asked because Ms. Parker is also a Long Island native.
Parker's dogs just heard that and obscured the name of the town. What was the name of the town?
Center Reach
Center Reach.
in Suffolk County.
Sure. My brother just left Holbrook.
Yes, very near.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's one of the things that attracted me to this town. When I started dating my husband, I needed to check the town out first, right? And I'm like, I don't know if I can live just anywhere. Growing up where I did, I kind of had an expectation. Mm-hmm. And this town fulfilled that, in that I was really attracted to its wide open spaces, to the fact that we still have farms here was just fantastic for me. I like to keep them here. I really think, not just for myself, although selfishly I love it for myself, but for anybody, all the children in the community and older folks. It's nice to have a little produce stand that you can go to on a weekend and just enjoy the local fare. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. All right. So talk about some of the issues that you feel are important and how you go about addressing them.
So the most important thing for me is to be represented on the town council. Being a Republican, I don't really feel that I'm being fully represented by the folks who are there now. Not to say that they're not working hard or diligent, perhaps they are. But, they're only thinking of things from one side of their brain, right? One philosophy, one theory. What I do know about working in the city of New York is when you have different people coming together from different places and you all start to think about how to tackle a particular problem, what I might not think of right off the top of my head, somebody else might, a different perspective, having a robust conversation to think outside the box. But you can't really do that if everyone is speaking the same thing the same way. I really feel that I would like to see my point of view represented. I really don't feel that. And I'm sure if I feel that way, there have to be others in the community who also feel that way, who, so maybe some folks have given up the idea that their voices will be heard. And so shunning out a group of folks who are living here and enjoying this beautiful community and paying taxes here, I think is really unfair to them. And it should not exist. I know people are doing the voting, right? They're making the choices. They're the ones out there who are voting one particular way. But I have a sense that it's very likely people have given up. They don't go vote anymore. What's the point if my representative isn't going to get in? So we have to really try to rally folks to vote whichever way they go, because it's so important to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the most important things for me.
Mm-hmm.
To follow up on that, and I know I'm going to echo probably a lot of what the other folks are, and you might have already figured it out, being an environmental person, keeping those open spaces to the extent that we can. I know we only have so much control over these things, but to the extent that we do, we should try to save these open spaces so that future generations have them to enjoy. I can tell you from living on Long Island, once they're gone forever.
Mm.
There's no getting it back. There's no, gee, I wish I coulda. It's gone. It's not going to happen. It's as simple as that. So that's why it's important to do what we can. No, we may not have so much control that we're going to save every single space, but to the extent that we can do these things, if there's parcels of land out there that we can purchase as a town, we should look at it. We should think about, does it make sense? Is it better to be safeguarded? Or is it something that is too extravagant for us to do as a community? But I think we have to think about it, and we have to decide, where we want to put the funds. So I think that's very important. And although it's true the municipal taxes are only making up 15% of our overall tax bill, it's still 15%. So keeping those taxes at bay to the extent we can. And I know the last 2 years were rough, right? We came into this COVID flush, which was very beneficial to us as a town. We were able to use those funds to help folks out during those 2 years, almost 2 years. But it's probably going to happen. It's probably going to see the increases. I know it creeps up little bits. It doesn't happen all in one fell swoop. But we want to make sure that the taxes aren't so over abundant that the folks who live here can no longer afford to live here. This is something else growing up in Long Island that I learned pretty easily. You grow up in a place all your life and you enjoy it and want to stay. But if you are priced out of being able to do that, then you no longer have that as an option. So to the extent that we can do those things, we should try to do those things to keep the community full of people who enjoy it and want to continue to prosper here.
Being an environmentalist, what do you think is the biggest environmental challenge facing the township right now? And what would you do to address that?
I got to be honest with you, it's a tough one. Since I moved into this town in 2007, and we just experienced a pretty horrible flood. And I want to say that was probably the second of its kind that I experienced personally since I've been here. And it was pretty devastational, right? It was not just a little overabundance. It was people's homes were flooded to the extent that a lot of damage was done. I know that just talking to folks around town and also quizzing my husband because he grew up here, Michael, my first question is that something that's new? Did we have these experiences before? Now, a couple of things did happen, right? The building is one. So you're building and you're taking away the ability to drain. So to the extent that you used to. So that's one of the impacts. Of course, the other impact probably has something to do with the Army Corps of Engineers and what they built over there in Bound Brook, that when these things happen, they sort of shut down and they help to protect certain communities. And really all they've done, and from my experience and what I understand about it, is push the problem down the line. Mm-hmm. So now it hits our town and probably some other towns along the way. They need to come up with a way to fix this problem long term. Although we don't get these events very frequently, when we get them, they're devastating to people. And it's also dealing with mold, and people can become sick. The bacteria that comes with that. It's just not a healthy situation for anybody to be in. add on COVID and all the worries about that. You can't get materials to put your house back together. That's the other issue, because there's just not an abundance in the supply chain right now. Sort of out of our control a little bit, but things that you have to think about. So being able to have the drainage necessary and then look at another solution. Maybe what the town needs to do is reach out to a different level in government, make sure they understand that this is a problem that we're having and it's not a problem that we always had, so that we can Army Corps of Engineer can take another look at what they did over there and see if that had any impact on what we're experiencing and what can be done about it, if anything.
Okay, great. PJ?
Well, you answered all of the questions that I had before I asked the questions, so I appreciate that. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go back to how you feel about masks.
So, you got to comply with what the CDC has been telling folks, right? The CDC, I'm not a doctor, but I fully admit that. I've done my research just like anybody else. I have my personal opinions just like anybody else. But when you're going into a grocery store, or if you are you're going into a private business, they have the option to ask you to wear your mask whether you're vaccinated or not. If they ask you to do that and you want to go into that store, then you have to wear the mask. You have to comply with the rules and the laws. I'm fully vaccinated. I have no problem with getting vaccinated. I know a lot of people are very, they're iffy about it. They're not really sure. Some folks were sort of waiting to see how this was going to play out. I understand everyone's trepidation on the whole vaccination thing. My personal opinion on masks, I comply with the law, but now that I'm vaccinated, I really don't wear a mask unless the proprietor requires it. That's just my personal, that's how I do it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Cody agrees.
Yes, I do apologize for the constant interruptions. I have two special needs dogs. Stella, I know you know about dogs.
Yes, I do. My girl is here with me.
Yes, I have two little boys.
She's quiet.
Yes, and neither of mine are. And one of my little guys happens to be almost totally blind, and he reacts to different things in sometimes in very vocal ways. So if I've been popping in and out, I hope I will be forgiven.
Absolutely.
Anyway, what's your best quality, Stella? What is the best part of Stella Mitsun?
I'm a really hard worker. I don't stop in the middle. I continue to do whatever it is, whatever task I'm given, to completion. I'm a closer. That's what I do. That's what I do for whatever it happens in the house, my personal things going on here. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. We have my word on that. I know that some folks, these days they word doesn't mean anything, but when you're dealing with me, it absolutely is golden. If I can't do it, I won't commit myself. It's as simple as that. But once I have committed myself, I always do whatever needs to be done to get the job accomplished. And many times that means talking to people, researching. That's a lot of the things that I do in environmental side of the house. I have to do a lot of research. You have to do that because you have to understand all the nuances that there is in whatever the issue might be. Because you don't want to, at the risk of saving X, you don't want to lose Y. So I'm cautious, but I do my research, and I'm usually very good at getting it done the right way.
Well,
That's
thank
great.
you.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
One
you.
of your running mates, Mr. Cashinski, wanted to know what tipped the scale for you. What made you move to Franklin?
Love.
Ah,
My husband, he
Bravo.
lived in Jersey. I lived on Long Island.
Long
I have a
Island.
little girl, and from a previous marriage, and I didn't want to take him away from her. I thought it was important that she had her daddy accessible to her. I made the choice. It was a hard one to move. My family is all on Long Island. But I think it was a good one because she just got married this past
Right.
September, and she's happily married, and we're really happy for
That's
her.
terrific. Good. Do you have anything else you'd like to tell the people who are watching and who will be watching why they should vote for you?
Sure. I think regardless of who it is that you're going to vote for, you really have to get out and vote. I really mean this in my heart. I really don't think it's something that you should throw away. There are other countries, other peoples that don't have the opportunity to vote on the local level or the national level. And when you're doing that, you're really looking to find somebody who can represent you and your voice. And that's something that I will do. I will represent another perspective, another voice, so that when we're all at the table, we can have a robust conversation and come to a spectacular result.
Well put. Well put. PJ, anything else from you?
No, that's just thank you so much for being a part of this, though. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you, and you have a great night and good luck.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. And now, last but not least, we have Mr. Howard Strager. How are you? Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sticking in there.
I'm also persistent.
Well, that's a good trait to have, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Mr.
is.
Strager, I don't know that many people know who you are. So why don't you give us the life story of Howie Strager?
Okay, a little background. I am a city kid. I grew up in the Bronx. I went to NYU and graduated with a BS degree in management from the Stern School of Business. I'm the tech. I also have an MBA. I used to work for defense contractors, and I'm bragging, so please excuse me. This is shameless. But if you saw the movie Top Gun, I worked for the defense contractor that built the F-14.
Wow.
My specialty is business management for high-tech advanced programs. So I bring the ability to do business management to the table. That's one of the things I had to learn. The Department of Defense does not give people $20 million on day one. They have fiscal year funding. Communities like Somerset Run also have to look at this as a business. How much money do I need year to year? When am I going to have to replace things like piping or sewers or build new things? These are all the kind of things that I understand how to do. Also, I worked with advanced development programs, and we talked about iPhones. I was thinking of Bill Shatner today going up in space. Scotty, beam me up. So I was there when guys were really doing that stuff. But getting back to your initial question, in 1976, we left Long Island and we moved to Westwood, New Jersey, and we lived there until 2011. The kids had moved out. The kids graduated. Our son moved to Hillsborough. So we decided, Judy and I decided we wanted to move down to be close to our son. We have two grandsons who live in the area also. So by moving down here to Somerset, we moved into a community where there were other people who were in the same age and socioeconomic area as we are. And we were looking for fun and new friends and things of that nature. Nice community, to be exact. And when our grandson, like one is having a music recital in another few days, it's easy to get to when we go there. And we put my mother in a nursing home because she was 94 years old and she couldn't live alone anymore. So we built a whole new life down here in Somerset. And I must say, we have liked it very much. It's been a pleasure living here. So the reason I'm running for office is this is my way of giving back to the community. I have technical ability. When people have problems, computers or other things, I know how to do those things. And I like to think I bring the same knowledge to the community as a member of town council. We can't raise taxes and do a lot of things, but by understanding where the money goes or how money is spent, we can do something to set up a way to control it in the future. My belief is all the things we talked about, all the things everyone talked about, and excuse me for repeating some of what they said, we want open spaces, we don't want crowded roads, but we have to make sure that we have enough water and enough sewage and electricity to keep the community going. And things are getting a little crowded around here. So I would say, if I were to advocate something, I would advocate advanced planning. Let's see what we need. Let's see where we want to go. Even the trucks from Amazon, they're already beating up the roads. I've seen that happening around here. So we have problems that we would have to deal with. But I'm a community person, and before I agreed to run for office, I talked to people in our community. I said, what is the most important thing for us as a community, for you as an individual? And the answer came up, taxes. The old joke is it's bigger than both of us. So I recognize the need to try to find ways that we can control the tax situation that we have. Some of it is supposed to be controlled with only allowing a 2% increase each year. But also, if you have to make a big change, if you suddenly have to build a new police station, just as a hypothetical, is that money in the budget? Is that a capital expense? Where is it? Those things should be planned out. We do it at Somerset Run, and it should be done as a part of the community. I had to do it for the DOD, for Department of Defense. I think it's a good idea. And that way, if we know what's going on, if we know where the future probably lies, then we have a better chance to control it and make sure we don't suddenly get into some kind of bind where we say, oh, we can't allow any more housing here because we don't have any more sewer capabilities. So, as a matter of fact, that is the very first item on the list of things that I would try to work on. Let's have a plan. Let's understand why we have to spend money. And other people were talking about being open about this. And then let's see when we have to do it and what we can do about improving our situation. We can't do an awful lot in terms of raising taxes. There are things we might be able to do, like combining services where we deal with the state, so we could save some money. So that's, I don't want to shoot from the hip. And we need to do this in a comprehensive way. That's one of the things I used to have to do, is present things to people in authority in a comprehensive manner where they could say, these are the criteria that we have. This is what we should be doing. And this is when we have to do it. It's an orderly way to run things as a business. That's my thought. The second issue, because I know you're going to ask what's the next one, happens to be the wetland. We have wetlands in the area. And the idea was very, very good. I believe in environmentalists also. The problem with the wetlands is they have never been maintained. Out in California, they didn't maintain the wetlands, and then one day they had a fire and everything caught fire out there. There's uncontrolled forest fires running out there right now. I would like to have something done, and I don't know what it is, but it's on my list of actions to find a way to get the wetlands maintained and cleaned up. There are dead trees in the wetlands that go break and end up on private property. They present a danger. So that, in a short way, that's my way of explaining environmental controls. I think we need an environmental control system, and we have to make that part of an overall plan that I was just mentioning as item number one. Item number three, what was I just thinking about? Okay, it just slipped my mind. I had the third item. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So hung up on the first two. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Item number three, the big problem, and I actually had to read about this. It's deer season, everybody, and we have to be careful about deer running amok in the area. If you hit one with your car, it's $1,500 to get it repaired. It's not too pleasant for the deer either. And part of the plans that I have seen is to cull the herds. So my suggestion is, rather than just go out there and blindly start culling the herds, we should again have a comprehensive plan as to how to manage the deer as part of our environmental impact study, so that they have a right to live and they don't interfere with our right to live. So
it sounds like you're in favor of more humane ways of dealing with the deer overpopulation.
If it is possible, I would advocate a more humane way of dealing with the deer. Out west, they send the forest rangers out there and they shoot 1/3 of the herd. Because if you don't do it, the animals are going to starve to death, which is painful in and of itself. So if we could find a better way to do it, I would advocate that.
Okay.
Okay? It's something town council could have a say in.
Sure, absolutely. Your running mates have talked about overdevelopment and how they would deal with it, how they would approach it. How about you? What do you think of that issue?
Overdevelopment is a big problem. I agree with them completely, and I didn't want to sound like I was flogging the same horse, so to speak. But yes, overdevelopment can be a problem. And again, as part of a comprehensive plan, I would look into seeing things like, hey, how much can the roads bear? I mean, if you come out here on New Brunswick Road at 3:45 on the school day, the traffic jams are half a mile long. And it's only a 2-lane road. Can we make the road wider? Gee, I don't know. But that when I mentioned comprehensive plan, that would be part of the plan. You want to make the roads wider? It costs money. Let's see what we'll have and when we'll have it. It should, all these things should be incorporated. We're integrated plan to describe it the way you're talking about. Okay, complete integrated plan, which would include housing. Open spaces are big. I like to see open spaces for kids to play. And I would also like to make sure that we have the wherewithal to support all the services that we need. We need fire, we need police, we need other things, you know, in town hall. So these are issues that should all be put together under one document, let's say.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I'm just going to divert just for a second. PJ, oh, never mind.
Lost her?
Yeah, but she popped back in. I'm gonna get rid of this PJ Parker. This is live. This is what happens when you get live. And there she is. Hello there.
Can I be heard?
Yes, I barely.
Yeah, but you're a little low though.
Okay. Yeah, it's the sound deficient iPad.
Oh, okay.
The other one is being adversely affected by being charged. So I'm
All
not
right.
quite sure what that's all about, but Apple Store tomorrow.
Okay. All right, PJ, you have any questions?
I'm going to have to defer that to you, Bill, on a municipal level. The one question that I keep asking of the candidates.
Would you like me to explain my position on vaccination?
No, not vaccinations, the masking at this point. And you know
Oh.
what, I'll throw in, how about testing?
I believe in vaccinations. And I'm an older guy. My sister was a polio pioneer, and it obviously worked. So I've seen the benefit of wearing masks and protecting people. My mother survived the 1920 Spanish flu epidemic, and people didn't even know what a virus was. So the masks had a benefit. But let's put it in this manner. If you're in an area where you can be safely segregated more than 6 feet, let's say, I don't think you need a mask. But if you're going to be in an area where it's very crowded, say a movie theater or a sports stadium, and which is enclosed, then I could see a need at this point for people to wear masks to have the extra protection.
Okay. Thank you.
I can hear you in the background. My wife's got it on her laptop.
Can you hear my dog whining?
Yes. But I'm a dog. And next week I get to watch kids' cats.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's been an exceptionally interesting evening, K9Y. Again, I do apologize.
That's all right. Well, I hope I have explained myself in a kind of coherent way.
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna ask PJ's question for her. That she asks everybody. What is your best attribute?
My best attribute, personally, is problem solving, because I'm used to dealing in high-tech advanced situations. You have to know how to solve problems. You have to be able to listen and break them down and come up with a solution that works as well as possible. I am very good at it. So I'm also a community person, as I said. So as a member of the community, I've been volunteering for things here in Somerset. And I mean, I work with people. I listen to them. So those are the two things that I think are my attributes.
Okay, great. And just to summarize, why should people vote for you?
Because I have a background in managing money, or a background in managing business, more precise answer. I know how to do it. I had 35 years of experience doing it, and I believe that I will be an asset to the community when elected.
All right. Well, PJ, you have anything else?
change one thing about Franklin Township, what do you think that would be?
I didn't hear the question.
She said, if you could change one thing about Franklin Township, what would it be?
Taxes? That's
Okay.
that's the simple thing. A lot of things that should be looked into, but if there'd be a way to lower the taxes, everybody would be happier.
That's for sure.
You can do that? You think you can do that? You have a plan for that?
I don't think that a town councilman has that much leverage where we could really do a lot. We could do something. Discipline will help, but I don't know if there's a lot of ways that we could get more money from things. I mean, there's a few, like combining services with other communities. That's supposed to be a way where we might save some money.
Mm-hmm.
It should be looked into personally. I mean, obviously we cannot levy taxes, and we're not going to start selling online betting.
Well, you never know.
You never know. Well, that's what the lottery was supposed to be.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother story, isn't it? Yeah. Senior citizens programs.
And actually, the lottery money was supposed to be used strictly for education.
Right.
Maybe we could go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Get off my soapbox.
That's fine. Oh, actually, it was the casinos that were supposed to go to senior citizens. The lottery was supposed to go to education. That's right.
Right. So,
Okay.
okay.
All right. Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on our program and for sitting it out and listening to your four running mates or co-challengers. I guess you're all challenging the incumbent. Well, most of you are challenging the incumbents.
Oh, I am. I'm not.
Yeah. Right. So
Two.
you're running in Ward 2, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, Mr. Strager, thank you again so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity of having me and listening to me.
Absolutely. And have a great evening and good luck.
Thank you very much. You too. Bye now.
Thank you. Okay. That's that.
Well,
That was a lot of information.
yes, it's always a pleasure to see the other side of the campaign trail when you can hear people personally and see their expressions and get to their truth about their vision for what's important for Franklin Township.
Right.
And I think we got a real good picture from each one of our candidates tonight. And I'd like to thank Andrew Dard, Laxman Kanduri, Rob Cashinski, Stella Mitsun, and Howie Strager for taking the time out of their precious campaign time to tell Franklin Township who they are, a little bit about what their visions might be, and a little bit about what their solutions also might be. So I think we have a good picture of the 5 challenges to the current slate. So I'm thinking election day is going to be very interesting in Franklin Township.
Yeah. And don't forget, Franklin, in New Jersey, we now can vote early. Early voting starts on October 23rd, goes to the end of the month. We can do mail-in voting. And by the way, Franklin is one of the 6 points, one of the 6 locations in Somerset County for early voting, and you can do that at the Senior Center. All right. Wow, this was a long evening. This was a long hour. It was more than an hour, actually, but we got a lot of good information out there, and I think people learned a lot about the Republican candidates. We are talking to the Democratic candidates, so we will hopefully be having a similar evening with those folks very, very soon. And we are planning on October the 19th, right? The 19th?
I think we were thinking the 18th.
Oh, the 18th? Okay. Well, one of those nights, we're planning to have
final confirmation.
Right.
We'll be announcing it on our Facebook page and our website.
Right. The Board of Education, the 9, or as many of the 9 Board of Education candidates who wish to appear with us. So a comprehensive.
of, I jumped ahead of you a little bit. You were referring not to the council members, but you were referring to the Board of Ed candidates.
School board. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I misspoke.
Oh.
I think the 18th has been set aside for the Democratic candidate, the Democratic slate. For
Okay.
So you're saying that the 19th.
I think the 19th is when we had planned on having the school board folks over, right?
Mhm.
So as many of them as wish to participate, so we can give you a very thorough information package as to the local candidates. And obviously there are other elections in the state that day. Most generally the governor. We are the assembly's up for re-election. The Senate is up for re-election. But we focus on Franklin Township. So there. All right. Well, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. We had a very, if you watched it earlier today, we had a very long walk with some folks from other parts of the state who passed through Franklin on a march today. So that was a little taxing, and we've been on the run ever since. So I think it's time to put out the light and take down the shingle and just put the feet up for a while.
And get ice cream.
And getting ice cream. I had ice cream. Well, we already had ice cream today. Anyway, yeah. All right, Franklin. Again, if you like this sort of programming, and I know you do, please consider supporting us through subscriptions. You can go on the franklinreporter.com website, and there's a little information there as to how to subscribe. If you own a business or know somebody who does, please consider doing it yourself, or consider asking them to advertise with us, because advertisements are very important. They not only help support your best source of news in town, but they also get the word out about what businesses in Franklin, what there are. What is offered by businesses in Franklin Township. Anyway, PJ, have anything to add to that?
Yes, again, it's not about just supporting your local news. It's being a part of a community that's represented by working your local news. And one of the things that I know we both found very interesting, we were approached by several people when we didn't have a monthly digest newspaper, and we were asked, we really want your news, but some of us don't have and do not want to have computers. How are we going to get your news? So, ding, 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 ding. Being that both Bill's background and mine as well were in print, we thought, okay, newspaper. We got a tiny bit of opposition to that. But overwhelmingly, we found that it had a broader reach than we had anticipated. And one of the stories that I'm so fond of telling is that we walked into one of our advertisers one day, and there was a father and a son sitting there, and they're both holding up the monthly digest. And the child says to the father, "Dad, look, it's a newspaper." And this kid was 8 years old, and he's joyfully reading a newspaper. Now, I think it's wonderful. It's tangible. People can cut out the pictures of their friends and their family's friends and their kids' friends and put them on the refrigerator. You can't do that digitally. Well, you can if you sit and screen shoot and take the time to print out and all of the above. But there's something very real and very tangible about turning a physical, actual page. Something very satisfying about that. And although we did initially strive to satisfy those who just are not either technically interested or technically proficient or just don't want a computer, well, that was originally the premise to start. What we started in a small newspaper in a small town like Franklin, which is no longer a small town. But we found that the interest was a little bit larger than what we anticipated. And we're always gratified by that we can meet the needs on so many levels, that we not only have the 24/7 Franklin Reporter and Advocate news site, So sign up on the Franklin website, the Franklin news site, at no charge. And every morning around 5 o'clock, you'll get the little ding, and it will be the Franklin Reporter Morning Report giving you the day's top stories, the best fuel prices, and traffic reports. In addition to that, and a monthly digest, and we're now coming on, going into our second year with these programs, such as you just watched, the News Hour. And Bill's about to resuscitate his podcast, the subject matter of which is yet to be revealed, but I'm sure that will be informative and entertaining. And we're here, Franklin. We live in Franklin. This is an important piece of life. It's everyone's home. To appreciate Franklin Township. And we've said from the beginning, we are going to bring Franklin to Franklin. We're going to bring and emphasize what's excellent and what's honorable about people in this community. If you have, on that note, something that you want to brag about, that you want your neighbor to know about, that you think is valuable for your community to be aware of, please send this information to us. This is what we do. This is what we want to do. Just the virtues of Franklin Township. Sure, we're going to report the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes, we are, because it's news, and you have the right to know. But we are going to accent what's wonderful. And that's our mission. Franklin to Franklin.
For sure. All right, Franklin. Thank you again so much for tuning in. We appreciate your support. And by the way, I should say thank you to the subscribers and to the advertisers who've supported us over the years, because we really, you are our lifeblood. We really do appreciate you all. I'm sorry, my phone just went off. We're going to wrap it up. I don't know.
It's not been a good day for devices.
I've got Frank Sinatra. I've got Frank Sinatra singing "Fly Me to the Moon" on my phone. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks again for.
He's saying on my phone. That's why.
That's why I like that song better, actually. That's the song about they play at Yankee Stadium when the Yankees lose.
Okay.
Anyway, Franklin, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you again shortly. And until that time, Franklin, as always, stay safe. PJ, say that thing you always say.
Well, before I say that, I again want to thank all of the candidates from the Republican slate. It's always an interesting opportunity to see perspective. And this is a good thing for my Franklin. Thank you for listening and make wise choices. You've heard some very strong candidates here tonight, and we appreciate each and every one of them for participating. So thank you. And we will.